Hi everyone, Kim Branum, RN, BSN here, and owner of Thin Space Wellness. Welcome back to Midlife Mayhem, the podcast all about the beautiful chaos of midlife. So this is episode number 5, and it's very clearly the wee morning hours again. My household is asleep, which is wonderful. I think sometimes God gives me a little nudge to get out of the bed when there's something on my heart or something that I need to get done that would just make life feel a little easier, a little better. So here I am, 3:30 in the morning, again in Colorado. So this podcast is inspired by a dear friend of mine, Mr. Tim Resch. He is Mountain Man Tim. He's been in Estes Park for a very long time. He's become part of our family. He's amazing. Tim is starting a podcast and asked for my help because I had obviously started this one. So I'm very excited to help him with that. He has so many wonderful stories to tell. So he asked me where he should start. He's like, where do you even start? What should my first episode be? And I was like, well, you start at the beginning. And the beginning for him is when he was 13, he experienced a tragedy. And I will let him tell that story. It's one of the very first stories that Tim told me, which is ironic after you hear my story today. But anyway, in talking through starting at the beginning, I really felt like starting at my beginning would be a great way for you guys, whoever's listening to this, to get to know me better. And maybe it'll connect with some of you guys. I hope me telling the story can help someone. And I know it is healing for me when I share this story in some way. So thank you for listening. So my story starts when I was 7. My mom was a nurse, and I remember her being in nursing school when I was young. She graduated nursing school when my little brother was in her belly. She was very pregnant. And when I was 7, we were driving, my mom, my little brother, and I, to Benson. We were driving to Raleigh to meet my dad, but we were driving through Benson, North Carolina, which is nothing. It's just like farmland. And we were meeting my dad. He was a general in the National Guard, so he had been away on business for the Guard. And we were going to Duke Hospital because my little brother had leukemia. So we were going to meet my dad and then to go to Duke for my little brother's treatment. And at that time, he was 18 months old. So driving through Benson, my mom stopped to help a gentleman whose car was on the side of the road. I don't remember if he was in a car accident, if his car maybe had driven into the ditch. There was some reason that he was injured on the side of the road, but he was on the only car. So, get the coffee. We were driving this way, and the gentleman was driving this way, so his car was back a little bit behind where we stopped and pulled over. I was in the front seat. I don't know why. My little brother was in the back behind the driver. And I remember my mom just saying, I'll be right back. She did come back to the car once and opened my little brother's back door and grabbed a box of tissues from the back. And I had to pee so bad I couldn't stand it. I was like, Mom, I have to go pee. And I remember her just saying, I'll be right back. And that's the last time I saw my mom. Whew. Sometimes I can tell the story just like it's a story and not my own. And sometimes I don't make it through very well. So forgive me. I don't want to ruin my eye mask. So my mom apparently, I learned this after the fact, had helped the gentleman onto the back of his pickup truck. So again, they're facing this way. So he's on the back of his truck now. She's helped him. We're up here. And a truck came and hit the back of the pickup truck and killed the gentleman and my mom. So I didn't know this at the time. And this is one of those God moments, a thin space moment. We talk about thin spaces, the thin space between heaven and earth. This is a time where God was right there with me, protecting me and my little brother. We didn't hear a thing. We didn't know anything. What I remember is being in the car. I remember playing with the radio, which maybe is when something happened. Maybe it's God protecting my heart now and just taking that memory away. Maybe I did hear something and he just put something else in my brain so that I wouldn't have that memory. I didn't learn about exactly what had happened until much later, which I'll explain later. But I remember drinking my mom's sweet tea. She had a Dunkin' Donuts thermos of sweet tea, and I drank the whole thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, my mom's going to kill me. So from my perspective, what I remember is a police officer coming to the car, sitting in my mom's seat, and asking me a gazillion questions. I was scared to death and didn't want to talk to him. He was like, where's your dad? What hotel's he staying at? I don't know. I'm 7. I don't know. So at that point, I remember that I'd peed my pants. So I had my little blankie with me, and I was so embarrassed because I'd peed my pants. And some teacher came and sat with us in the car and was asking me all these questions, and I didn't feel like talking. And I was like, why are all these people coming to the car? Like, what is going on? And I was just so impatient. Like, I just was like, I wish my mom would hurry up. Sorry. Okay, so the police officer, I remember him coming back and saying, I'm going to take you to my house. I have 2 daughters, and I'm going to take you to my house until we can locate your dad. And I was too nervous to ask, where's my mom? That's all I was thinking. Where's my mom? And that I wanted to change my clothes because I'd peed my pants. So he took us in his car. Again, I don't remember seeing anything. I'm sure there were all kinds of emergency vehicles everywhere. I don't remember seeing anything. Like, it's just this like tunnel vision. So he took us to his house. We played with his daughters. They were super sweet. His wife was amazing. And the one thing that I remember when I thought something was weird is when she asked me, the police officer came and said, okay, we found your mom. Come with me. Found your dad. Come with me. I'm going to take you to your dad. And, sorry. Oh, goodness. So we found your dad. And his wife was so sweet. And she was like, honey, do you need anything before you go? And I just said, do you have any sweet tea? Because my mom's going to be mad at me that I drank all her sweet tea. And I will never forget the look that she gave me. Clearly she knew. I had no idea. And I think she realized she just felt so bad because she realized I didn't know that my mom was dead. Gracious. So she was like, I don't have any sweet tea, honey, but I've got Diet Coke. And I was like, do you mind filling it with that so that she's not upset that I drank all of her drink? Not that she would have been upset, I'm sure. But anyway. Okay, so the police officer took me to the hotel, and I remember getting there and still not knowing a thing. It was really weird because my aunt was there, my Aunt Ann, my Uncle Mac. I mean, there were just so many people there, and my dad was there, and there were police officers there, and I was so happy to see my dad. And my Aunt Ann asked me if I wanted anything, and she went downstairs to the cafeteria, and I wanted a chili dog and a Fanta, and gave her this like laundry list of things to order because, again, like I ate my face off when I was a kid. Super healthy, right? So by the time she got back, I remember the feeling of just being so sick I couldn't eat. So my dad, the police officer came and asked my dad to step outside, and I was sitting there, and there was a minister there. My grandmother was there, my dad's mom, the minister from her church, and I remember my dad coming back in. And he just sat down on the bed with me and just said, your mom's gone. And I know I didn't understand completely what that meant. We wouldn't stay with my grandmother for a couple nights. And when we went back to Wilmington, I remember walking in the house, walking through the front door and screaming, Mom! And then I just lost it because I realized she wasn't there. Okay. There you go. So that's what I feel like is my start, because it's impacted every single day of my life, every minute of my life since. Oh, gosh. Okay. So, yeah, childhood trauma is a doozy. And it's something that I feel like makes me a whole lot for a lot of people. There's a lot there. I mean, in elementary school, I remember how weird it was when I went back to elementary school. People obviously didn't know what to say to me, so a lot of people, the teachers were super sweet, but other kids didn't understand. And it's a lot for everybody to deal with, right? So, just a lot of, I'm a lot. I'm a lot for a lot of people. And I find that because of that, I've learned to just kind of be a little guarded. And it's not that I don't want to talk about my mom or talk about anything that happened, but I feel like in a way I've been trained to do that, to just kind of keep everything's fine. I compartmentalize stuff. I shove stuff down. I deal with it other times. But I just try to not be a lot to people. So when I'm struggling with things, I tend to bottle up and keep it to myself. I tend to not share and not talk about things with people, even my closest friends, which I should do because I know it's a healthier thing to do. But so my dad got remarried. The woman that he remarried legally adopted me and my little brother, which at the time, yes, I wanted a mom. And so, of course, I wanted that. Every trace of my mom in my home was either packed away in boxes in the attic or sold. We didn't talk about my mom. There were no pictures of my mom. And there's a lot, I'm sure, that I could talk about in there, but to keep this succinct, I learned that it made people uncomfortable to talk about my mom. So to make other people more comfortable, I learned to put my own needs aside. So the lady that my dad married left my dad. They got divorced. She's still legally on my birth certificate, which one of these days I will maybe have changed back to my mom's name. I have one copy of my birth certificate with my mom's name, and that's the one I use because I refuse to accept the other one. Anywho, that was after my grandmother came and lived with us for a year, which was amazing. My grandmother Carper, she was an amazing woman. So my dad got remarried after that to my current stepmom. So some of these things will be bits and pieces and will be other podcasts. There's a lot there. I'm a lot. Anyway, when my mom died, my grandmother Harris became one of my closest people. She was such an amazing woman. She's where I learned to sing. She played guitar. She had the most beautiful voice. She sounded like Ella Fitzgerald. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I talked about that in a previous podcast. Went a lot of summers to their house. So one day we were in my grandmother's bathroom and I was complaining because I'd cut my hair, which was my own doing. I had hair that was like down to my backside. And my grandfather, I think I was a brat when I was little. I just don't remember. I've blocked that from my memory. I think I was a little bratty. But my Granddaddy Harris, told me if I didn't stop doing something, and this was when my mom was alive, but told me if I didn't stop doing something, that he was going to cut my hair off. And so to show him, I went and got the scissors out of the kitchen and went and cut my hair. So I had a Dorothy Hamill, if y'all remember that haircut. Ended up with a Dorothy Hamill, but it took forever to grow back out. So a couple years later, I was complaining to my grandmother Harris about my hair, and it just wouldn't grow, and I wanted it to be long again. And she was like, let me show you something. And she pulled her wig back, and she had that peach fuzz chemo hair. And I was like, what? What is happening? So my grandmother Harris had breast cancer, and that's how I found out. She protected me from that. I didn't know about her struggles. Gosh, that's another whole podcast, but she was an amazing woman. So we were really close, and she ended up passing away from breast cancer. And later down the road, as I was an adult, my grandfather Harris passed away. So when he passed away, I went to help my aunts clean out their house because we were going to sell it, or they were going to sell it. And that's when I found the accident report for my mom's accident. I found so much information, so many newspaper clippings they had saved, just all of these things that really brought back up my mom's death and my mom's accident from a whole new perspective. I was an adult, clearly, and it was insane. Like it felt like it happened all over again. I went through this like really, really hard time, feeling it in a different way. Reading the accident report, reading how they found her. But it opened my eyes to a whole like really selfless place about my mom's accident, where I stepped back and I was like, my dad had to read this. My dad had to be told this. My dad had to experience it the way I was experiencing it right then, but times like 50,000. But as an adult, like my dad had to go through that by himself. I mean, he had family support, but he was taking care of two young kids, trying to process the loss of the love of his life in a very tragic way. So, yeah, it was very eye-opening. I talked to my sister a lot about it. I have a half-sister and brother from my dad's first marriage and had never until that point thought about how my mom's death impacted her or my brother Jamie. My little brother doesn't remember my mom because he was too young. So when I've tried to talk to him about it in the past, he's just like, I don't know, he's kind of indifferent about it. Maybe he's not, but that's the way I perceived it. He doesn't remember. So my dad, talked to my sister about it every now and then, and my Aunt Debbie, my mom's sister, my Aunt Ann, my other Aunt Ann. Those family members are the ones who know my mom, and they're the ones that I can call and ask questions to. My dad's sister, Aunt Ann, just passed away 2 weeks ago. My dad has now since passed 4 years ago. So I feel like my dad was my person. I could call him and ask him any question about my mom. But even with my current stepmom, you can't talk about my mom. It's too upsetting. That's a whole other topic. But again, I've been taught my entire life, and the model I've had has been to stuff it and just move on. So anyway, so that's my start, and kind of like sprinkles throughout my life. Some of you know that I was a professional jazz singer for many years, taught piano, voice, and guitar lessons. That was my first career. I had a master's in opera. And then when I was, after I had my first son, I went back to nursing school. And it was a very healing experience for me to do that. I remember going to the neonatal unit, which is where my mom worked when she was a nurse. And the first day was just an emotional, disaster. I was doing what I remember her telling me about. I remember her coming home with baby clothes, or borrowing my baby clothes to go to work, or coming home with little baby footprints that were this big, from the preemies. I mean, it's just, so going through all those things and going through what I felt like she may have experienced and gone through was extremely healing and very amazing. So becoming a nurse was one of the greatest things. I'm so grateful for that experience. I'm grateful I am a nurse. Anyway, So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. When people ask me like, "Oh, tell me about yourself," it's like I have to just really like buffer it down. I have to like just kind of okay, because that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like people, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it when something like that happens, and maybe some of you guys get this, but when something like that happens, it becomes who you are, and it's made me who I am. Yeah, I want to be able to say I'm grateful. I am grateful. I'm not grateful for that. I'm grateful for who I've become. I'm grateful for my mom's influence. I'm grateful for my dad for loving me and caring for me when he was going through the hardest time of his entire life. I can't imagine. She lost friends. Her friends lost her. I mean, it's just like you think about all the people impacted by that accident. Okay, so that's my story. So I hope you will join us next week. I hope this podcast has not scared you away, because I'm telling you, that's my experience. Is I'm too much for people. It's too hard. I don't know. Too hard to think about. Too hard to talk about. This episode's probably really long. Yep, 21 minutes. Sorry, guys. So next week, I will be interviewing Tim Resch, and I'm going to let him tell you his story and his beginning. Because like I mentioned, it's one of the first stories that he told me when I met him. And as soon as he did, I was like, there's a reason we connected. God just like put us together so that we could talk through some things. So I can't wait to share his story with you. Thank you again for listening to the story. I'm going to finish my coffee and get my podcast uploaded before my family wakes up. And I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you for listening. I feel like I should be apologizing because I feel like I rambled my way through this story. It's hard to tell just bits and pieces of it, but there it is. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you seriously for listening. Those of you who comment, who send me messages, who take the time to listen, it means the world. And I really hope that this podcast can help someone. Just from hearing it, I know there are people out there who have dealt with things probably way worse than I have. So I hope that this makes you feel comfortable in sharing your story. I'd love to hear it. If you have a story, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to reach out and share it with me. All right, you guys have a good week. Thank you. See you next week on Midlife Mayhem.